Our story begins in July 2015 in the quiet residential area of Clifton, Salford. The victim, Paul Massey, a notorious figure known in the media as Mr. Big. Massey was a well-known personality in the Manchester underworld, a man with a reputation that preceded him. As he stepped out of his car, returning home on that fateful Sunday evening, he was ambushed. The weapon of choice? An Uzi submachine gun. Massey didn't stand a chance. He was gunned down. A brutal, public execution that immediately screamed contract killing. The brazenness of the act sent shivers through the community and the criminal fraternity. Who would dare to execute such a prominent figure? The police investigation was immense, but for a time, the killer remained elusive. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a professional hit, meticulously planned, leaving few immediate clues. Fast forward to May 2018, nearly 3 years later. The scene shifts to a rural track in Rainhill, Merseyside. Our second victim, John Kinsella. Kinsella was no stranger to the underworld either. A close friend and associate of Paul Massey, he was also a mob enforcer known for his formidable reputation. He was out walking his beloved dogs with his partner, Wendy Owen, when a gunman emerged. This time, a revolver was used. Kinsella, like Massey, was executed with cold precision. Wendy Owen miraculously survived the attack, but the trauma would forever haunt her. The murders of Massey and Kinsella were quickly linked. They were not random acts. They were professional executions, carried out with similar cold-blooded efficiency, 3 years apart, but clearly stemming from the same deadly gangland feud in the greater Manchester area. Police were looking for a contract killer, a gun for hire. It was then that a name emerged, Mark Fellows, a man from Salford who would soon acquire the chilling nickname, the Iceman, for his detached, emotionless approach to murder. Fellows was arrested, but the prosecution needed more than just a name and an underworld rumor. They needed hard, undeniable evidence. This is where the story takes a fascinating modern turn. The key piece of evidence that would ultimately seal Fellows' fate was not a witness statement or a fingerprint. It was a Garmin Forerunner 35 GPS fitness watch found at his home. The Iceman, for all his meticulous planning, had overlooked his own digital footprint. The watch, a common fitness device, recorded his every move. Police painstakingly analyzed the data, and what they found was astonishing. The watch's GPS logs placed Mark Fellows at the exact locations of the murders, not just at the time of the killings, but days and weeks before, during crucial surveillance periods. For the murder of Paul Massey in 2015, the watch showed Fellows traveling from his home in Warrington to a remote field opposite Massey's home in Salford. The records demonstrated a reconnaissance trip, a deliberate journey to scout the target and plan the ambush. The logs of a simple training run had turned into a chilling confession. The same pattern emerged for the murder of John Kinsella in 2018. Fellows' watch logs placed him lurking around the area in Rainhill. The data confirmed he was doing surveillance, scoping out the location and establishing a getaway route. It was a killer's diary, written in satellite coordinates and heart rate data. The digital trail was undeniable. It proved not only his presence but his substantial degree of pre-planning. The 8-week trial at Liverpool Crown Court was secured by this digital evidence. Mark Fellows was found guilty of both murders. His partner in the Kinsella killing, Stephen Boyle, who acted as a spotter, was also convicted and jailed for a minimum of 33 years. On January 17, 2019, Mr. Justice William Davis sentenced Mark Fellows to a whole life term. In passing the sentence, the judge offered a chilling assessment of the man before him. He described the murders as execution, pure and simple, and Fellows as a contract killer who was prepared to kill whoever you were asked to kill. The judge concluded that Fellows deserved to be kept in prison for the rest of his life. This whole life order, the most severe penalty in the British justice system, was upheld after Fellows launched a desperate appeal, arguing his crimes were not exceptional enough. The court disagreed, stating the planning was indeed substantial and the term was richly deserved. For Mark Fellows, there would be no parole, no release, ever. But the story of the Iceman doesn't end with the sentence. Just weeks after he was locked up, retribution found him within the walls of a maximum security prison. In February 2019, Mark Fellows was seriously attacked inside HMP Whitemore. While showering, Fellows was targeted by another inmate. He was slashed with a weapon believed to have been made from a razor blade, sustaining serious injuries. The severity of the attack was such that he had to be airlifted from the prison to a hospital for treatment. In the violent ecosystem of the prison world, the attack was a stark reminder that a reputation for cold-blooded killing offers no immunity. A contract killer, the ultimate predator on the outside, had become prey on the inside. The saga of Mark, the Iceman Fellows, serves as a modern cautionary tale. A man capable of such extreme violence was ultimately brought down by the very technology he used to appear modern and fit. His vanity, tracked by a simple fitness watch, provided the digital rope that hanged him in the court of law. He is now destined to spend the rest of his life inside, a consequence of his own murderous ambition. Today we delve into the dark and violent world of Robbie Lawlor, an Irish criminal whose name became synonymous with gangland feuds and suspected murders. His story is a stark reminder of the brutal realities of organized crime. Robbie Lawler, originally from Dublin, became heavily involved in organized crime, extending his reach into County Meath and playing a significant role in the infamous Drogheda feud. He was well known to Gardaí, the Irish police, for his involvement in serious and organized criminal activity. Lawler had a substantial criminal record with over 100 convictions and was released from prison in December 2019. Reports indicate that he had been warned by Gardaí that his life was in danger even before he traveled to Belfast. One of the most chilling cases linked to Lawler is the murder of 17-year-old Cian Mulready Woods in January 2020. This was a crime that shocked Ireland due to its extreme brutality. Mulready Woods' body was dismembered, with parts left in various locations, including a sports bag found in Coolock, North Dublin, and a burnt-out car in Drumcondra. The discovery of flip-flops in the sports bag was seen as a deliberate taunt, a warning to rivals, as Lawler's own flip-flops had been stolen in a mugging a month prior, an attack in which Cian Mulready Woods was suspected to have been involved. The teenager's torso was later found in Drogheda. Lawler was a prime suspect in ordering this horrific murder, which was believed to be a ruthless act of revenge. Court documents submitted in November 2022 by the Criminal Assets Bureau named Lawler as the gunman who shot Owen Maguire 6 times in a 2018 assassination attempt in Drogheda, leaving Maguire paralyzed. Lawler's suspected involvement wasn't limited to the Mulready Woods case. He was also a suspect in the murders of Kenneth Finn and David Lynch, among other unnamed killings. He was a gunman for hire and was at odds with a major Dublin criminal suspected of several murders, including that of Alan Ryan. His criminal activities were deeply entwined with the Drogheda feud, a violent struggle for control over the illegal drug trade that has claimed multiple lives. The feud intensified with a series of tit-for-tat attacks, including beatings, stabbings, shootings, pipe bomb attacks, and arson. Lawler's involvement in the feud was solidified following the murder of Richie Carberry, Lawler's friend and brother-in-law, in November 2019. Lawler believed a North Dublin gangland figure was behind Carberry's murder, not the Drogheda gang, as revenge for Ken Finn, who Lawler was suspected of killing in February 2018. The locations where some of Mulready Woods' body parts were discovered were in the same area where Finn was murdered, highlighting the interconnectedness of these brutal acts of violence. The net was closing in on Robbie Lawler. On April 4, 2020, Lawler himself was fatally shot. The incident occurred around 11:50 a.m. outside a house on Etna Drive in Ardoyne, North Belfast. The PSNI and Garda Síochána believe he had traveled to Belfast just hours before his death, possibly to collect debts. His murder was described by police as brutal, carried out at close range in broad daylight. A white Volkswagen Sirocco, stolen from the Republic of Ireland, was found burnt out nearby, believed to be connected to the killing. The investigation into Lawler's murder revealed a complex plot. Court hearings have alleged that a 3-man assassination squad scouted out Lawler's movements before carrying out the contract killing. It has been alleged that a €50,000 cash payment was made to members of a Limerick-based gang for their role in luring Lawlor to his death, with the killing allegedly commissioned 3 weeks prior at a meeting in a Sligo hotel. In December 2020, 2 men, one from Derry and one from Belfast, were charged with Lawlor's murder and also with possession of a 9mm pistol with intent to endanger life. These men have pleaded not guilty to the charges. Robbie Lawler's life was a cycle of violence, marked by his alleged involvement in numerous murders and his significant role in gangland feuds. His death brought a violent end to a criminal career that left a trail of destruction and grief across Ireland. The investigations into the many crimes he was suspected of continue to unfold, shedding light on the intricate and often horrifying world of organized crime. Welcome to the Crime Reporter. Today, we're unmasking a truly formidable criminal enterprise, one led by a man described as a hardened individual with a penchant for violence, Daniel Kelly and his trusted associates, the Ahern brothers. Daniel Kelly isn't just any career criminal. His rap sheet began incredibly early, with his first conviction for shoplifting at just 11 years old. From those petty beginnings, his criminal career escalated dramatically, embracing aggravated burglary, weapons charges, and eventually the highly lucrative and dangerous world of Class A drug dealing. Notably, Kelly was a pioneer in using modern technology for illegal gains. In 2016, he made headlines as one of the first individuals in the UK to be jailed for using a drone to smuggle contraband into prisons. He meticulously adapted a remote-controlled drone, even spray-painting it black to avoid detection, to ferry items like tobacco and the psychoactive drug spice to inmates. This innovative, yet illegal method highlighted his cunning and willingness to adopt new means to further his criminal activities. He built a reputation, a network, and a formidable capability for complex criminal operations. It was later, with the Ahern brothers, Lewis and Stuart, that Kelly would embark on some of his most audacious international schemes. Perhaps one of the most prominent was the daring art heist at the Museum of Far Eastern Art in Geneva, Switzerland, in June 2019. This trio executed a meticulously planned burglary, targeting priceless Ming-era porcelain. Imagine the scene. They weren't subtle. Using an angle grinder, a sledgehammer, and crowbars, they smashed their way into the museum, demonstrating a shocking disregard for the historical and cultural value of what they were destroying in pursuit of profit. They made off with 3 exquisite pieces: an early 15th century bottle with a secret pomegranate decoration, a rare chicken cup, and a 14th century An Juan Phoenix design bowl. The insured value of these items alone was over $3.5 million. This wasn't a smash and grab by amateurs. It was a professional job, highlighting their international reach and their ability to plan and execute high-value thefts across borders. The fact that some of these pieces were only recovered through complex police sting operations speaks volumes about the difficulty in tracing such valuable stolen art once it enters the black market. Their international ambitions didn't stop in Europe. Daniel Kelly is also wanted in Japan for an alleged robbery at a Harry Winston store in 2015, an event that further solidified his reputation. This incident saw Kelly and 2 others accused of stealing diamond rings and other high-value items worth nearly £700,000. The brazenness of the attack, which involved assaulting a security guard and smashing display cases, further cemented Kelly's reputation as a violent and highly determined criminal. These international escapades painted a clear picture. Kelly and his crew were not confined by national borders in their pursuit of illicit wealth. But perhaps the most chilling chapter in their collective criminal saga, the one that truly defines the dangerous nature of Daniel Kelly and the Ahern brothers, is their involvement in a conspiracy to murder. In 2019, Daniel Kelly, alongside Lewis and Stuart Ahern, was found guilty of plotting to murder Paul Allen, a former cage fighter, and notably, a ringleader in the infamous £54 million Securitas cash robbery. The attack on Allen was brutal. He was shot and left paralyzed in his Woodford Green home in July 2019. Crucially, Kelly was identified as the shooter. The court heard how this was not a spontaneous act, but a calculated, targeted hit. The conspirators used sophisticated methods, including surveillance and tracking devices, to pinpoint their victim. After the shooting, in a desperate attempt to erase their digital footprint, Kelly even threw an iPad connected to the crime into the River Thames. Incredibly, police divers managed to recover it, providing crucial evidence that helped seal their fate. This case truly demonstrated the lengths to which Kelly and the Aherns would go, graduating from high-stakes theft to cold-blooded attempted murder. In April 2025, justice finally caught up with Daniel Kelly. He was sentenced to a staggering 36 years in prison for the conspiracy to murder Paul Allen, with an additional 5-year extended license period. Lewis Ahern received 33 years, and Stuart Ahern, 30 years. Hello and welcome. Today we're taking a deep dive into the harrowing details of a brutal crime campaign that led to 3 men being sentenced to a total of 59 years in prison. This was a complex and ruthless case, driven by the violent underworld of drug debts and a shocking disregard for human life. We'll be exploring the specific crimes that brought this gang to justice. The most prominent crime in this case was the cold-blooded murder of Gary Moore, a 32-year-old gym boss. On September 6, 2018, Moore was lured to the front door of his home in Airdrie, North Lanarkshire. As he opened the door, he was shot multiple times, a total of 9 times, by Barry Harvey, an enforcer with a known reputation. The motivation for this brutal assassination was a significant drug debt of £100,000 that Moore had accumulated. The High Court in Glasgow heard that the shooting was meticulously planned. A nearby CCTV camera captured the chilling moment Harvey carried out the murder. The violence was so calculated and extreme that Judge Lord Clark described the crimes as extremely brutal. Harvey's fee for the murder was used to fund cosmetic dental treatment in Turkey, a detail that highlights his callous nature. For this crime, he was sentenced to a minimum of 29 years. Just months later, another life was taken in a similar fashion. The body of Rafał Lajko, a 36-year-old Polish national, was discovered in a burned-out Mercedes GLE on February 11, 2019, in Blantyre, South Lanarkshire. Lajko's murder was also linked to drug debts. He had returned to Scotland to work off his debt, but was instead picked up in a stolen vehicle and driven to his death. The court was told that Darren Owen was involved in the collection of the stolen car and was ultimately responsible for Lajko's murder. This tragic end was a stark reminder of the deadly consequences of falling into the world of drug-related crime. Owen was sentenced to a minimum of 22 years. The campaign of violence also included a planned execution that, by chance, did not end in death. On December 3, 2018, drug dealer Scott Bennett, 43, was shot in the head while sitting in his van outside a veterinary office in Rutherglen, South Lanarkshire. CCTV footage captured the moment. A vehicle pulled up alongside Bennett's van, and Barry Harvey emerged, pointing a firearm at the victim. The bullet entered Bennett's jaw, passed through his teeth and tongue, and lodged in his neck. The court heard that this was a pre-planned attempt at an execution carried out by Harvey and Thomas Guthrie. Despite the life-threatening injury, Bennett managed to flee the scene in his van. This incident, while not fatal, showed the gang's intent and their willingness to use lethal force. Both Harvey and Guthrie were found guilty of attempted murder. After the shooting, Harvey and his partner took a holiday to Australia, demonstrating their indifference to the violence they had just committed. The crimes were not limited to drug-related targets. The gang also reached outside the criminal underworld, as seen in the shocking attack on Joe Shields, a 68-year-old solicitor. On July 19, 2018, Shields was a victim of a cowardly, unprovoked assault carried out by Thomas Guthrie. The jury was shown CCTV of Guthrie waiting for a significant period of time outside Shields' office near Glasgow Sheriff Court. As Shields emerged, Guthrie viciously slashed him. The solicitor suffered significant injuries, including a cut from his ear to the corner of his mouth and another to his right temple, which required 10 stitches. The advocate depute stated that Shields' life was in obvious danger, and that he would have died had he not received immediate medical treatment. This attack showed the gang's reach and their willingness to intimidate and harm anyone who they perceived as a threat. The trial shed light on the inner workings of this brutal crime syndicate. Thomas Guthrie, who was already serving a life sentence for his role as the getaway driver in the murder of Gary Moore, was described as subservient to Harvey. The group is believed to have had links to brothers Barry and James Gillespie, who ran a global crime network before disappearing in Brazil and are now presumed dead. The sentencing of these three men for a combined 59 years brings an end to a terrifying campaign of violence that underscored the ruthlessness of the drug trade. The judge's final words on the matter highlighted the public's deep concern about these planned assassinations and the deeply disturbing link between drug debts and appalling acts of violence. It was a shocking act of violence that reverberated across London, a gunman on a powerful motorbike firing 6 shots in 2 seconds outside a busy restaurant in Dalston. The intended targets were a group of men eating at an outdoor table, but the first bullet shattered the glass and hit a 9-year-old girl in the head. She was just eating ice cream. Police described her survival as a miracle. She spent over 3 months in the hospital, and her skull had to be rebuilt with titanium. The bullet is still lodged in her brain, and she faces a lifetime of physical and cognitive challenges. This horrific event wasn't a random attack. It was a carefully planned assassination attempt, and it was just one more chapter in a brutal, decades-long gang war. Police believe the feud between the two rival gangs, the Tottenham Turks and the Hackney Turks, is behind more than 20 murders over the past 2 decades. At the heart of the conflict are 2 men, Kamal Armagan of the Hackney Turks and Izzet Eren of the Tottenham Turks. The war between them and their associates has seen members of the public, their families, and even their own gang members murdered and maimed on the streets of London and across Europe. The spark that ignited this fire came in the early hours of January 24, 2009. A fight broke out at a snooker hall in North London. Kamal Armagan, a leading figure in the Hackney Turks, was beaten up. He told police at the time, "I'm old school. I'll sort it out myself," and he did. What followed was a swift and bloody escalation. That year alone, the feud was directly linked to 31 shootings, 4 arsons, 5 stabbings, and 3 murders. The violence became a vicious cycle of retaliation. The Hackney Turks E5 Social Club was sprayed with machine gun fire in March 2009. Later that year, Izzet Eren of the Tottenham Turks was shot at 12 times but escaped uninjured. Weeks later, fellow Tottenham Turk Oktay Erbasli was shot dead by a man on a motorbike. Just 3 days after that, a gunman opened fire with a submachine gun at the E5 Social Club, killing 21-year-old Cem Düzgün, who was not believed to be the intended target. Prosecutors said it was a hit ordered by Kamal Eren as revenge for the shooting of Erbasli. The war continued to rage with lethal consequences. In February 2012, Ali Armagan, Kamal's brother, was shot dead in his car. His death led to a further hit in Turkey in December that same year, where Kamal Eren was shot and left paralyzed. Then in April 2013, the war claimed a new leader. Zafer Eren, then head of the Tottenham Turks, was shot dead in Southgate. His younger brother, Izzet Eren, stepped up to lead the gang, ensuring the cycle of violence would continue. Izzet Eren was a major player, but he was also a man who had a knack for escaping. In 2014, he was wanted for a revenge shooting in Turkey, but he escaped from prison and made his way back to the UK. Police stopped him in October 2015 on a stolen motorbike, armed with a pistol and a Scorpion submachine gun. They believed he was on his way to avenge his brother Zafer's murder. While being taken to court for firearms offenses, Izzet Eren's gang attempted a daring prison van escape. The Metropolitan Police had intelligence of the plot, and during the operation, a police marksman fatally shot Jermaine Baker, one of the men recruited to help with the escape. Izzet Eren was jailed for 14 years and transferred to a Turkish prison, but he escaped again just a month later. His younger brother, Hussein, was murdered on a holiday to Turkey in 2020, sparking yet another wave of violence. That year alone, police intelligence linked the Tottenham Turks to 3 fatal shootings and 4 threat-to-life warnings. The gang was even linked by a judge to the murder of DJ Kore Alpergin, who was kidnapped, tortured, and killed in October 2022. The war came full circle last year in Moldova. where Izzet Eren, who had been granted bail on an asylum claim, was shot and killed as he sat outside a cafe. The suspect? Kamal Armagan, wearing a camouflage outfit. He allegedly fired 7 shots into Eren's back and head, killing him instantly in what was a clear act of revenge. Police in Turkey confirmed that Kamal Armagan was arrested just a few months ago, on March 10th of this year. Now, with both leaders killed or arrested, you might think the war is over. But experts say the bloodshed is far from finished. Tony Saggers, former head of drugs, threat, and intelligence for the National Crime Agency, says Turkish organized crime groups have filled the demand for heroin in the UK since the 1970s. These gangs mirror legitimate trade routes, bringing drugs from Afghanistan through Iran and into Europe. The Hackney Turks, or the Bombasalers, were once led by a man known as the Emperor, who was said to be responsible for importing some 90% of all heroin into the UK. The control of these criminal markets is what fuels the conflict. Criminology expert Dr. Mahmout Cengiz believes the killing of Izzet Eren sends a strong message. He says that if you are able to kill a group leader, it means you are the most powerful organization. But that power dynamic is fragile and temporary. Dr. Cengiz predicts a strong response from the Tottenham Turks, who will have to attack the Hackney bombers and their high-level people to show they are still active. And so, the cycle of violence continues. For now, the men behind the Dalston shooting are either convicted or at large. The gunman on the stolen Ducati Monster remains free, and police are offering a reward of up to £15,000 for information. The brutal reality is that this long-running feud has cost countless lives, but perhaps its most tragic victim is the 9-year-old girl who was simply eating ice cream with her family, caught in the crossfire of a war that began with a slap.